So today we're headed to the middle of Cuivre River State Park. We're going to camp at a place with an interesting story. Good idea. Last time I was here, last winter, that creek was a raging flood. Now it's hardly a flow at all. The squirrels have been busy here. I guess they enjoy the scenic view while they dine on their acorns. Boy, it's quite toasty. I didn't expect it to be so warm. Mid-November. It should be a lot colder than this. We're going to be down in the 30s tonight. But right now, I think we're in at least the mid to upper 50s. And it is warm. I can hear voices down in the valley. It sounds like two women maybe. So we're on the, two women it sounds like. So we're on the Cuivre River North Loop, and there's a connector trail at the bottom of this hill that crosses that creek and goes to the South Loop, Cuivre River South Loop, making it roughly a figure 8, around 12 miles. Man, it's a beautiful day. Pretty quiet and still. Gorgeous blue skies. I don't see a drop of water down there. I just realized I've already walked by Dewey Spring and another unnamed spring that flows out of a small cave. They must be bone dry. I didn't notice either one. Last time I was here, Dewey Spring was just gushing out of the ground. Well, here we are, home for the night. It's only 2 o'clock. I need to start listening to my wife's advice and bring a book. And all the other advice she gives me. I probably have a much better time. It's going to be a long night. But I'm going to find some place to pitch camp. I'm just going to sleep on the ground. I slept so well last week when I was out here on the ground. Figured I'd do it again. All right, camp is pitched. That is honestly as easy as it could get. Love it. So what I'm going to do, I've got like food and cooking stuff and, maybe a little cigar and whiskey and stuff like that in there. And later I'll kind of spread it all out in here. I'll sleep towards the fire ring, take the rest of the tarp and cover up my gear just in case it gets dewy during the night. And if it does, I could cover myself up with the tarp too. But I have a feeling tonight it's going to be a little warm if I do that. I'll always keep my face out from under the tarp just so condensation doesn't build up under there too much. I brought a stove. I didn't expect to find any firewood. There's a bit here, not much, for a cooking fire. But maybe we'll have a small fire just for the ambiance tonight. Yeah, that's not going to work. Looks like I'll just sit on the tarp tonight, on the sleeping pad. I've got to get a backpacking chair. All right, so there's a reason I chose this spot for tonight's camp. Just over in this direction, 100 feet maybe, is an old family cemetery dating from the 1800s, the Dewey family cemetery. They lived here during the 1800s and had 10 children, 9 boys, 1 girl. and they had a family cemetery, you know, with their homestead. That was kind of traditional back then. So David and Mary Dewey, husband and wife, were both buried here, and they had stone markers for the future graves of their 10 children. But as their children became adults, they all moved away, kind of scattered across the country, and none of them came back. So there's the cemetery, there's the old well, and that's all I found here. I haven't found like foundation bits from their house or anything like that. That's going back a long time. At least for Mary, over 150 years ago. So there's a legend, a local legend, and that's why I decided to camp out here tonight, just to something different, I guess. So the legend is that David especially had planned for all of his children to be buried in the family cemetery, and it was like one of his greatest desires of his life was to have them all buried together in a family cemetery here on their home site. And it's a gorgeous home site. We're up on a ridge line. I've got great views across valleys in both directions from here. I can understand why you would want to live here. It's a hardwood forest, a lot of oak, hickory, mixed oak hickory primarily. It'd be rugged though, and I'm sure it was kind of remote, like most home sites were in the 1800s actually. So since his children weren't buried here, the local legend says that the ghost of David and Mary can be seen wandering the hills hand in hand at night, searching for their missing children. You can't get much closer than this unless I slept on top of the graves, and that ain't happening. But let's go over there and take a look at the cemetery and the well. All right, so here's the old well. I can see camp right there. Oh, it's got an iron grate over the top of it. That's a good idea. And it's got water in it too. Wow. I don't know if the camera would pick that up. Maybe the water's maybe 8-10 feet from the top of the well. I really didn't expect water to be here on the top of the ridge line. Let me see if I can pick that up on the camera. That's almost a little over 6 feet. Here we have the gravestones for David and Mary Dewey. And just off to the side are 2 rows with 5 stones in each row as the markers for their children. There's some old plastic flowers in front of each of these stones. They've been here for a long time. Wonder, maybe there's some local family that comes up here occasionally. So here's some of the stones just sticking up out of the ground. A couple of them are flat and kind of sunk into the ground. So this little cemetery is on the ridge, just a straight shot from camp, very close. We'll head on back to camp. I don't know what inspired me to do this. I guess it's just a new experience, something I haven't done before. I need to come up with better ideas. I do plan to sleep with that camera right by my side tonight, though, just in case something weird happens. I was surprisingly able to collect enough wood for a fire. It took a bit, but that should do it. And then I brought some jute out for tinder. I've unraveled it. I'll rough it up a bit, make a bird's nest out of it. Then maybe I'll try throwing a spark with a ferro rod and see if we can't get a fire going tonight. We'll split up a little fat wood too, just to give it a little bit more burn time in the beginning, because all this wood I gathered is really punky. So the sun's just above the ridge line now. The angle of the sun across this valley is gorgeous. A little after 4. I don't have all that much firewood, so I'll wait till it's almost dark before I start the fire. I ate so much breakfast and lunch today, I'm really still not hungry for dinner. So I've improvised. See, you can see I have the tarp ready to pull up over everything tonight. And I've improvised a bit of a seat by the fire. Not the most comfortable thing. I am going to have that chair on the next video. I'm determined now to finally get it. But I'll show you what I've got. So I moved that log a bit, added a couple more. It's good enough. Got a little whiskey, Ardbeg 10-year, little peated scotch. It's going to be good, especially with the cigar. Then I'll start that fire in a bit. This will pass the time till then. Oh, for any of you cigar smokers out there that might be curious, La Roma de Cuba. Life is good. So I've been standing next to this well, trying to imagine where David and Mary would have built their house. I mean, there are pros and cons to location. On the ridgeline, it would be gorgeous. It would be drier. You have those strong winds, especially during storms. In the valleys, it's a lot more damp. But you're generally, well, closer to water, but you have to worry about flooding too. It's tough. You would think, based on when David died, he died quite a bit earlier than Mary did. I would assume that the house was built over 200 years ago. And that's another thing as I scan these valleys and ridges. Just imagining 200 years ago what it must have been like. It's a beautiful spot where I'm standing. I actually have a 360-degree view of valleys all around from here. It's a long ridge line, but you can see quite a ways this time of year. There are thousands of acres in this park now. I'm smack dab in the middle of it, and I'm the only person out here. Man, this is wonderful. All right, the sun's below the ridge line. I've got this little jute bird's nest in here. I was thinking about holding it in my hand, but jute goes up a little fast, so we'll skip that. Wow, that's a much bigger success than I expected, to be honest with you. Smoke always goes towards the highest object, is air pressure, and stuff I don't understand. But people have told me. So anyway, I think we're going to have a successful fire. I didn't even use the fat wood. I forgot about that. Oh, there we go. I'm sure this appears much brighter on the camera than it does in person, but between the sun setting on my left, which puts a rosy glow along the ridge line and silhouettes those trees nicely, and then we have a full moon rising off to my right, which is quite beautiful, and then this fire here, little hiker television, great way to spend the evening. It's quite bright out here though, for the time of evening that it is. I could probably walk through the woods without a headlamp right now. Wow. It's about 5:30 and it is dark. I guess we're a little over a month from the winter solstice. But boy, that's early to be this dark, especially with the full moon. So I wanted to take a moment and say thank you. Thank you to all my subscribers. There are a little over 270 of you, and I appreciate all of you. As Anne of Green Gables said, I feel like we're kindred spirits. I mean, 270 something after this much time isn't it bragging rights, that's for sure, but that's not what I'm out here for anymore. I'm out here to kind of, I don't know, just be with you guys, I guess, and enjoy the time together. I hope you do too. Thanks. Well, it's kind of early, but it's dark, like pitch black. So I'd say it's time to call it a night. Unless something unusual happens during the night, see you guys in the morning. Good morning. It was a long, cold night. All right, so I'm working on getting mostly packed up now. I gotta tell you, I woke up this morning stiff, all kinked up kind of. Moving around really helps work it out. Plus we have this little stretching routine we do at work to start the day. And that really does work. It gets those kinks out of the body. So last night, it was beautiful last night. That full moon was bright. In fact, in the middle of the night, it was directly overhead. It was kind of like being spotlighted. I was looking around for a helicopter or something, but really clear sky. You can see some stars even with the full moon until about, say, 3:30, 4 o'clock. And then just the fog rolled in and we were in a cloud. Up here, it's really overcast still right now, but it was just a cloud and everything's wet, soaking wet. And that really increased the chill. And I should have paid more attention to the weather, I think, forecast, because I was here about a week ago, and it was all my gear I brought with me is kind of like for temperatures in the 50s, and that worked last week, but it's 38 right now, and it didn't work last night. It was a long, cold night. I was awake a lot, but I feel good. I got enough sleep, that's for sure. Ready to get some coffee going, maybe some oatmeal. Back on the trail. So I'm going through my food bag, and I forgot that I brought some hot chocolate, which would have been great by the fire last night. Here's that dinner I didn't eat. Coffee, that's what I'm looking for. More coffee. There we go. Coffee and oatmeal. That'll work. See if I can do this without spilling any water. I have 2 cups of coffee, 2 cups of oatmeal. Even the paper on the lids to these oatmeal cups is soaking wet. That moisture got everywhere. Probably ought to measure that. That's probably going to be soupy. It'll work. Oh yeah. 2 different types of oatmeal this morning. All right. What a beautiful morning. I almost forgot all about the Dewey cemetery and the ghost story and all that. So nothing happened. I mean, did you really think it was going to? Well, there's Big Sugar Creek and all those stark white sycamores, especially on this foggy, overcast day. That is really pretty. So last night, I was thinking about, in the middle of the night when it was cold and wet and I couldn't sleep. I was thinking about all the nights I spent out in the woods when it's cold and wet and I can't sleep. And if I'm sleeping on the ground, as long as like it's not raining, well, then the advantages are that once it clears up, it kind of like just moves out. The wind will move it out a little bit. And then at least the air is not so damp anymore. But of course, I'm soaking wet by then. When you're in a tent, the air is the air. It's the same whether you're in the tent or outside of the tent. But when the breeze picks up to move that moisture out, which doesn't always happen, but usually in the morning it will, the tent traps that moisture in there, and so you're just stuck in there. But in the tent, you don't feel the wind, which increases the cold too. So it's pros and cons both ways. But it's unavoidable. There's really, as far as I know, no way to avoid it. You just have to suck it up. It's part of the experience, which makes me, it kind of leads me to thinking about how to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And I think it's one of the attractions for me to doing stuff like this is becoming comfortable being uncomfortable. In the past, I've had a lot of different experiences. When I was in the military, I had a lot of different experiences being uncomfortable. And, you just have to suck it up and deal with it and move forward. It's really your only option other than just wallow in your misery, I guess. But that doesn't help. So you just manage it. And after you've done something enough times, you're going to be all right. You come out of it okay. It's a beautiful morning. I'm out here in this beautiful scenery, enjoying the day. It was worth it. Plus, I don't know, I kind of like facing the challenge, I'd say, and overcoming it. That's really, wow, that's a big down tree. Okay, that's really a big part of it for me, I would say. So, I'm 63 now. I've spent a lot of my life learning how to be comfortable being uncomfortable in different situations. And it's still uncomfortable. But I always know I'm going to get through it. And I think I'm always going to do that. Challenge myself like that. With different types of being uncomfortable. Now we're down on the valley bottom. Oh, it's really pretty here. So we're on a loop trail, and we did the longest part of it yesterday. I don't know how far we have left, maybe a couple miles, maybe. Not far. Ah, it's really pretty down here. Oh, there's cedars down here. About to come this. Well, I really like that jute tinder I used last night. That was my first time using it. Man, that stuff just took off. I'm gonna remember that. Ball of jute twine was like $3.50 for 100 feet or 100 yards. I don't know, it's a lot. That'll last a long time. That's going in my fire kit permanently. Well, work our way up this hill. Definitely having a good time this morning. Boy, this section of trail is a trail I couldn't get lost on even in the dark. So I just walked past the intersection of on the Cuivre River North Loop, and that was the Big Sugar Creek Trail. From this point back to the trailhead, they join together on this section of trail. They're both loop hikes. I think the Big Sugar Creek Trail is 4 miles, maybe, right in that area. So this is where there are advantages to going with a lighter pack. If I had a lighter pack on, I like to knock that trail out on the way back to the car. It makes a loop and comes back out really close to the trailhead. But with this pack on, I'm winded just coming up that long hill. Yeah, pros and cons. I have some fun gear in here that I wouldn't have in a lighter pack too. You know, and reflecting on it, I should have hiked that Big Sugar Creek Trail. It would have been another good experience of being comfortable, being uncomfortable. Plus, I think it was really a pretty trail if I remember correctly. Well, I can see my car from here, which means this adventure has come to an end. I really kind of want more. But time to go home, dry out my gear, kiss my beautiful wife, pet the dogs, I guess. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for coming along with me. See you on the next one.